And welcome to RealAg Live, everybody. I'm your host, Shaun Haney. Thanks a lot for tuning in today. Really, really do appreciate it. Hope you're having yourself a great day out there in the field or the barn or whatever you are doing. If you have a question or comment on today's show, all you have to do is enter your question or comment in the box, whatever you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. I'm always confused how to describe that, but you know the thing. You type it in there, you press enter, and we'll try to get to as many of those comments and questions as we possibly can. Let's bring in today's guest that is on RealAg Live, and it is Kara Oosterhuis of RealAgriculture.com. Hey, Kara, how are you?
Hey, good, Shaun. It's weird being on the other side of this, definitely for sure.
It's way more fun on this side than watching this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's cool. It's cool to be on, but I meant like it's different to be. I'm usually the interviewer. It's weird to be on
Oh,
this
yes.
this side of it.
That's true. That's true. So we're going to have some fun today. We're going to talk about something that both of us are pretty passionate about, and that is sports. But we're going to take and compare managing a sports team and compare that to managing, farm management here in Canadian agriculture. And you wrote recently a column talking about this. What are some of the key points that you made?
So actually, to start out, why I thought of writing this column, I was sitting on the combine, my parents' farm, right near where I live, and in Bow Island, Alberta, and I was sitting on the combine, and it had been 2 weeks into harvest, and I'm starting to hear from different people, like long hours, everyone's getting exhausted, there's different things going on, and it got me thinking, like, how do you actually decide who does what and who switches things around? So I guess my column it talked a lot about where like lots of people manage their farm differently. Do you train somebody on the grain cart? Do you keep them there the whole time? Or do
Specialization.
you, yeah, specialization. It's that exactly. And I kind of started to wonder like what it got me thinking about playing sports growing up because lots of times you go like say you go away to a basketball tournament was what it got me thinking of.
Hmm.
And you got to make it through all these rounds before you end up in playoffs. Do you keep that starting line for playoffs or do you rotate them throughout the whole time?
Mm.
So that's kind of what it had me thinking. And we wonder this a lot on the farm. Is it a higher risk to somebody's, lots of times people say, oh, we don't want to switch them around because that's how people get hurt. That's when problems start arising. But the other side of it is if there's only one person trained on, say, the grain cart and they're working 7 a.m. till midnight every day, does that pose a risk as well? So that's kind of where the highlights of the article I wrote.
And we're going to get to some clips on this topic from some of the people we've interviewed in the past. We've got Carl Subban, the famous father of PK Subban, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and then his brother's a goalie as well. I forget his name. And then we've also got, I'm not going to forget this one, Lenny McDonald, the Mr. Mustache. Kelvin Hepner had interviewed him going way back at a conference in Manitoba, and they talk about kind of what it's like to be inside on a team, a sports team, and really having success. So we're going to get to those clips in a second. When we do the Farmer Rapid Fire on Thursdays, Kara, as we've been getting into, at the beginning of harvest and through harvest, I've been asking, a lot of the farmers, how do you set yourself up? Because, harvest is such a logistical time. And how do you set yourself up for success? And really, there's a lot of ways that people are doing it. There's no right way. There's really no wrong way. There's probably mistakes you can make. But depending on how big your crew is, you really got to do planning.
Well, and I think sometimes the hard part too is that it's harvest. Everyone wants to be a part of harvest, right? Like and everyone wants to be driving the combine. Everyone wants to like be there, getting their hands dirty, but there's so many important parts, and I guess that's kind of where it started getting me to think about a team as well because like okay, if we're going to go back to basketball, like yeah, okay, point guard might be quote unquote very important, but you also need your posts to be important.
Mm-hmm.
And you also need your truck drivers. You're not going to get your grain anywhere without your truck drivers. You're not going to get things, even as simple as, well, I say simple, but getting food out to the people that have been working all day. Like that's just as important. But
Right.
I, it becomes everyone wants that number one, like the striker position, the big names. So
Well, Kara, but you bring up a good point, though. one of the things that prevents people from doing a bit of a rotation on the equipment, whether it's planting, seeding, or harvest time, is, I don't know, George, he loves driving combine. I just, you know what, if he went to the grain cart, he just wouldn't be happy. And then, then we got a disgruntled employee, and there's some status that comes with the combine. It's sort of like how we treat the star athlete sometimes in the dressing room too.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's exactly. It's, do you upset people? Do you keep the rotation going through? And I guess how, like you said, there's really no right or wrong answer, but how do you physically manage that and how do you make yourself a good leader or manager from it?
Well, Lindsay comments, she says that the reason you wrote the article was because you don't want to drive grain cart anymore. You want a rotation.
Yeah, I'm like, get me out of here. No.
What piece of machinery do you like running the most at harvest?
I'm the combine driver usually, so I am
the diva.
Yeah, I am the diva. No, I can say I'm the diva, but I think we all played our part growing up on a farm. I was a golfer for many, many years.
You work your way up.
You work your way up. You run around and you go moisture sample here and run it into Viterra in town or wherever, and you run back out to the farm and
Okay.
So I help really wherever I can.
Okay, let's get to our first clip here. This is an interview that Kelvin Hepner did with legendary Calgary Flame Lanny McDonald, and they talk about what it's like on a sports team and just how communication and teamwork and being kind of that solid gelled unit is just so critical. Here's Kelvin Hepner talking to Lanny McDonald.
Each other
and working together as a team.
Absolutely. When you get everyone on the same page, it's pretty easy. And you look at sports teams that struggle, they're playing as individuals, or guys are going off and doing their own thing versus understanding and playing within that whole team concept.
And here in Brandon today, the day after a big trade with the Winnipeg Jets, we had an example of that within the team in Winnipeg, it appears.
Well, you certainly did, and I'm very happy for Winnipeg. I'm a Canadian hockey fan through and through, so I'd love to see Calgary, Vancouver, and Winnipeg all find a way to make the playoffs. I'm not sure if that's possible, but Winnipeg did an unbelievable job in helping themselves try and find a way to make the playoffs. I love the trade. I think Tyler Myers could be a stud for years to come. Drew Stafford is a better hockey player than people realize, and when you get into a good team feeling and good team atmosphere, guys like that will find a way to stay around, and hopefully that's the case for Winnipeg.
And that same thing, whether it's the NHL or a farm business with employees, that applies everywhere in business?
Well, it does, and you talk about farming, there's no better example of hard work and determination. But like here, sharing of thoughts and ideas at the conference, doing the breakout sessions, and I love their idea of the green team, the blue team, and the red team. I'd want to be on the red team. But the fact that they're all in different conferences and they come together at different times and share those thoughts and ideas, but the breakout sessions are wonderful as long as people are talking and asking questions, and then they feel good.
Mm-hmm. Have to ask you, Toronto Maple Leafs. What do you think? What do you think is the problem?
Well,
leadership.
I think it comes down to a lot of leadership. Obviously, they have some great individual players that are playing their own game versus playing an overall great team concept. They probably have more talent than a team like Winnipeg or a team like Calgary, but those other teams are playing together as a team, not caring who gets the credit, not caring who scores the goals or assists. They just care about the end result, and you look at the conference today, that's what it's all about, the end result, finding a way to work together and come out the other end feeling good.
Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about your mustache. Have you ever thought about taking it off?
Not a chance. I'm not shaving it. It took me 40 years to grow it, and I try and help out wherever I can. Movember, Wendell Clark shaves his off. God bless them. I'd have to hide for 2 years.
It would take you that long, you think?
Oh, I think so.
All right, thank you for your time, Lenny.
Thank you.
There you go. That was pretty cool. Yeah, pretty awesome stuff there. You know, it's that cohesiveness, Karen. One of the things is on a sports team, it's, you know, we focus a lot of times on how they gelled and how they got along, but the reality is that's not always the case, and it's not that way on a farm team as well. There can be some tense moments of high stress during harvest.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with Lanny when it comes to leadership being like, yes, it's personality types and it's how everybody gets along, but you need to have that strong leadership on the farm or on the sports team or wherever, because I feel like even some of the sports teams I've been on, we got along because of who was leading us together. You know, they wasn't pitting us together or wasn't pitting us against each other or making you feel like one job was more special than the other. So
Yeah.
I think that's totally.
We got a comment here from Jim. Jim says, interesting podcast episode on revisionist history, I think, on team management. Is it better to do you get a better star player or improve your lower end players? That's interesting. Get the best combine driver, or maybe just find some people who are better at errands and running the grain cart?
Yeah, well, and that's exactly. Jim. Is it Jim Hale?
Yeah, Jim Hale, yeah.
No, of course. Hi, Jim. Hope you're having fun in Lancer, Saskatchewan. I don't know. I really think it's very much like skills. I'm a big believer in personalities. Like skills can be taught and they can be learned, but if there's personalities that are like they have that star mentality, it's not going to work, in my opinion. That's how I've seen it in the past.
Who do you consider to be the best, like from an athlete perspective? Who's kind of like would you think would be the best leader?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know if I could pick one that I really would admire when it comes to leadership. No,
Really?
I don't think I can. Really, yeah.
Oh, I thought because I know you're a bit of a soccer family, so I thought you were going to say like Ronaldo or
Yeah, okay,
Messi
but Ronaldo's like, yeah, but they're all great players, but are they like
good leaders. That's a good question.
Are they good leaders? Because there's a difference. Like you can be great and you can be top of the team, but that doesn't mean you're good at leading your team. And I think that's maybe why I have a hard time answering that, is because you don't know what people maybe. I feel like a lot of leadership happens in the dressing room.
Well, you know, but there's some really quiet leaders. Like think about Kawhi Leonard last year for the Raptors, right? He basically does not talk, and he led on the court.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
That's a good
I'll give you that. Then it comes on the other side of like where I'm saying personality and you're saying no, it's about how your actions.
It's a combination of both, I think, though, isn't it?
I think it's a combination of both. Absolutely. Yep.
There is. I'm just looking. Kelvin had recommended a book to me, and I did do the audio version that was about this very topic. It is called The Captain Class: The Hidden Force That Creates the World's Greatest Teams. And what was super cool about it is the author, his name is Sam Walker. He went through and globally evaluated all major sports teams, and there were certain criteria. They had to be like global sports. They had to have won so many championships within a certain period of time. And he evaluated, he came up with tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 leaders. And actually, like people like Michael Jordan, based on the methodology that he used, people like Michael Jordan were only tier 2.
Yeah, and
he'd be somebody that people go to right away and say, yeah, that's a leader.
Mm-hmm. And I guess it makes it, like when you're talking sports, is skill in there too, because people tend to go towards the ones that are good at something, right? You look up to that person. So are you, and you bring people following you in that way, I guess, for sure. So
what about compensation? What do you, in some of the feedback you got on the article, did a lot of times in sports, that star player, that key employee, they get super, super big bucks. They take up a lot of that salary cap. Does that same thing happen enough on the farm?
I think that's a tough one. I think it really varies farm to farm. It really comes down to, I know in a lot of farms, I know compensation isn't necessarily so much, if you're, somebody who drives the combine. It's if you're somebody who's been there, like a longer amount of time, somebody you can kind of trust to do all sorts of jobs, not necessarily the specialization side, and somebody who can take that sort of, because there's leaders, but like you said, there's different tiers and there's different. I feel like at the end of the day, we're all leaders in some form, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm just starting to sound like a chicken soup for the soul sort of book over here, but
Yeah. Hey, let's get to our next clip. Okay, so this is an interview with Carl Subban, who he has 2 sons in the NHL, and he's pretty motivational. He's got a lot of little quips and sayings that are quite motivational in their roots, and you can tell that he really tried to instill in them a lot of the values that lead to being a part of a great team. So let's hear what Carl Subban has to say here. Here we go.
Beef. And the other thing too is just about potential. This industry, as you know, is undergoing some changes, you know what I mean? And some things outside of their control. And in life too, as we pursue our dreams and goals, we will face things outside of our control. But we need to have a strong belief system. And what I like to say to young people and to everyone is to believe in your potential. That's where it starts with me. That's where our successes and achievements start. It starts with us believing in it. Because if you don't believe in your potential, which gives you the ability to become or to develop in something over time, I don't think you're going to grow or develop. And then being an educator, that's how I saw all my students, including my own children, of course. I saw them through that lens I call potential. It gives you the ability to learn, to grow, and to develop. And how we see children influences how they see themselves. So if I see you through that lens, I'm telling you, you can learn to grow and you can develop. But you know, potential, the one message I wanted to get across to the industry leaders today is that potential is like a 3-legged stool. And I asked them to write the word potential in the seat of their stool. And one leg attach the word dream to it. The second leg attach the word belief to it. The third leg attach the word action to it. Okay, that's how potential looks. Dream, belief, and action. And we can only fulfill and unlock our potential through our dreams, through having a growth mindset, that belief system that we can grow, we can develop, we can achieve, we can succeed, we can overcome our mistakes. And then the third leg of the stool is the action leg. You know, when you don't make your dreams actionable, you're only daydreaming. You know what I mean? So even this beef industry, what I wanted them to know is they have a dream and they have some goals around increasing consumption, you know, around changing attitudes, about growing that base who are eating more meat. But, you know, the belief system is important because, you know, there's some kickback. There's fear of the unknown, distractions, I call them. So we need that positive mindset, and then make your plan or your dream actionable. And I gave them the 4 T's, and the 4 T's is a summary of the action. You make time to do your tasks. The 3rd T is training. No one gets better overnight, you get better over time. And the 4th T is team. It's very difficult to accomplish our grand goals, our big dreams, without having a team around us. You know, the more important the dream, the more important the team. The bigger the dream, the bigger the team.
Dude's like a walking T-shirt.
well,
I was
Literally, yes.
making notes here, and it's just like he just like ran out of room on my piece of paper. Okay, we're going to talk about communication, but I want to get to something that he really focused on there. And you know, Lindsay sent me a note during that clip, and she said, "Do we have enough mentorship opportunities for field level work? Should we develop this more as an industry?" And if you think about some of the things that Mr. Subban said there, it's about recognizing people's potential. That's a key thing on when you're a leader working with any sort of a team, and from a training standpoint, no one gets better overnight. So if we do recognize that potential, we got to put people through the training because they're not going to get better overnight. That can be tough to do on the farm. Not a lot of farms have training programs.
and not only training programs, but do they have the time? I know I've personally been told in situations before, it's like it's easier to just do it myself than to actually train somebody else to do it. And that's a big problem, I think, too, is not only just having the training programs, but taking the time to sit down and it's like, well, if you don't know how to drive the grain cart, I'm not going to put him on the grain cart. It's like, well,
Yeah.
he could have the potential to be very good on the grain cart, but you're just not taking the time to do that, you know?
I wish I had the clip of it, but we're talking about training. I think back to when we were at Agritechnica, and they had some of the manufacturers had like the combine, like the virtual combine, and it was essentially like Farm Simulator on steroids. And a big part of it was actually where you could do training. You could train people in the off season on how to very, very realistic situation, and train them on how to operate that combine. It really kind of made a lot of sense. The trouble is we don't really have access to a lot of those things outside of being at a farm show. They're not at the local dealership.
Yeah, and that's exactly how do we access these things? And also it brings in the problem of, a lot of people hiring in seasonal workers. A lot of people come in for they start right when it gets busy, like come in a week before seeding basically, and a lot of people leave a week after harvest is done, maintenance the equipment and then go wherever they're going, especially if you're talking like temporary foreign workers and stuff like that. But I think that it definitely does bring up some things, but it's with training comes communicating though too, I think, because you not only is it hard, you have to take the time, but you actually have to physically be able to explain to somebody, this is how you do this, or, this is what you're doing wrong. Like, I think part of communicating is constructive criticism too. And I don't think a lot of people know how to give and receive that as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's the heat of the moment. There's that kind of communicating, which is not the most nurturing or constructive. I probably been on the side, the wrong side of it, but also probably made the mistake of dishing that out too. And that's kind of what it can be like too during a stressful time like harvest.
Well, and like I said, everyone knows you're working long hours. You're dealing with, okay, you're getting to mid to end September. There's rain in the forecast coming, and we got to get these beans cut, and we got to get these things off. And it's it makes it tough to actually put in the time and the training for sure. And it makes you kind of wonder, should you be taking this time to all of a sudden you have a slow day? Hey, let's take George out on I keep using the grain cart as an example, but let's take George out on the grain cart and let's teach him how to do it, right? Even if the grain cart may not be like it's not that time yet, it's maybe important to do.
Well, and I think also one of the things that is a bit of a barrier here too is a lot of farms they have trouble investing in training because they're not quite sure on the longevity of the employee. And I hear a lot of time from farm owners, farm managers I talk to on a weekly basis, and they say, well, yeah, like I'll get them all trained up and then they leave me for 25 cents, right? And so that's and I think that sort of that attitude is changing because people know they have to, because they know they have to invest in training if they want to keep some of these people. But that sort of mercenary behavior of employees, it happens too.
Absolutely. I know some of short of economic falls, some of the hardest things we've had on a farm is somebody when they've been, trained for 10 plus years and then, like I said, they leave for 25 cents somewhere else. And that's tough. And it makes you if you're putting your heart into it, it makes people bitter against training programs for sure.
Yeah. Jim just commented, was just thinking this, could put the wife on the combine in these single-digit lentils. Things aren't going well out there, Jim. Time for a job rotation.
Well, your L's getting bigger, Jim. She'll get there one day.
Yeah, exactly. And the kid is not old enough yet. That's one
no.
thing, Jim.
Yeah. Let's just say this: do not actually put her on the combine yet.
For sure. So what kind of feedback did you get on the article, Kara? Did a lot of people see the real comparisons? Because when it comes to leadership and functioning inside, or if you're leading that team, a lot of these same principles they really do apply. Did the audience see it that way?
Absolutely. I got some. So, what actually kind of sparked, I'm going to go in reverse here, but what sparked the article, as I said, I was sitting in the tractor and you have these thoughts, but what do we do as farmers or industry professionals when we have thoughts? We put it on Twitter. So I went to Twitter with this and was like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And I was amazed with the amount of feedback I got on it, but the amount of mixed feedback I got. And everyone seemed pretty like, yep, nope, definitely this is how you do it. Yep, nope, definitely this is how you do it. But they were all like so different that it really got you thinking. And I had the same thing with the article that they seen a lot of those comparisons and they're like, yeah, like that's why it's not as easy to be a coach as you might think sitting on your couch at home going, God, he's a terrible coach, because it's not quite as easy being in that position.
Yeah, it's true. One of the differences is, you know what, in sports, there's like a champion at the end of the year. In farming, we don't necessarily have the champion, but we're all winners at the end of the day. When the crop's in the bin and it's over, everybody's a winner. Participation trophies for everybody.
Yeah, now who's sounding like chicken soup?
Yeah, good point. Hey, hey, that's all the time that we have today, Kara. I really appreciate you writing the article. People can check it out at RealAgriculture.com. Please do that. Kara, was a great spot, and thanks for everything you do on the team.
Absolutely. Talk to you guys later.
Okay, thanks everybody for tuning in today to RealAg Live. I really do appreciate it. If you have any feedback at all on today's show, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com, or on Twitter or Instagram. The handle is @RealAgriculture, or why not drop us a line? Call the RealAg listener line. It is 855-776-6147. Today, it is Thursday, which means on RealAg Radio, on Rural Radio 147, we are going to have a farmer rapid fire. So you're not going to want to miss that. We've got, I think, 5 farmers lined up. New Farm is our sponsor today. Big thanks to them. Check them out at newfarm.ca. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Live, and we'll chat again later. Cheers, everybody.